So maybe you guys have a brand new e-bike and you want to have a bike rack on the back of your vehicle. Well, it might be difficult to find one that works just right for you. A lot of e-bikes these days can come upwards of 100+ pounds, and most bike racks seem to only hold about 65 to 70 pounds per tray. Well, Young Electric claims that they have solved this problem and they did it on a budget scale. This is the Young Electric e-bike rack that holds 2 bikes and can handle up to 200 total pounds. And this comes in at only $359. Let's open this up and see how easy it is to assemble, and then see how well it holds my heavy e-bikes. Now, real quick, before I unbox this bike rack, I do want to thank the sponsor of this video, OutFitR.com. They're the ones that actually sent me this bike rack to review. And they have all kinds of stuff on their website, from bike racks to winches to automotive accessories. They even have some kitchen supplies and some outdoor equipment like outdoor deep fryers and camping supplies. So if you guys are interested in any of those type of products or this rack that I'm reviewing right now, you're definitely going to want to check out OutFitR.com. And a huge thanks to OutFitR for sending me this rack to review. Now let's get back to the unboxing and go over what all this budget e-bike rack has to offer. Looks like it comes really well packaged. Everything's nice and secure, and this is probably one of the smallest boxes I've seen a bike rack come in. So nice and compact, packed well, use a lot of cardboard instead of plastic, which is nice to see. Now, the assembly of this was relatively easy. It took me about 25 minutes to put this thing fully together. The trays come separately, and all the pieces like the wheel holders you have to put on, but it only requires a few bolts here and there. The instructions were really clear of where they needed to go. There are 3 tools that you will need: some sort of plier-like wrench, they call it a monkey wrench, and then also a 17mm wrench. I used a 17mm ratcheting wrench, and that really sped up the process. But you'll also want to carry or have a 24mm wrench, which is the biggest wrench size I've ever seen used on a bike rack, period. So that 24mm bolt, you'll only need that whenever you go to actually install this on your vehicle. That's going to be the hitch pin. But other than that, the assembly was pretty straightforward. Only needing 2 tools to actually fully assemble this was really nice. Now, I do have to say, I wish they included the tools in the box, but unfortunately they don't. Now, one other thing that's not included with this bike rack that you may want to consider picking up is a bike lock. This doesn't have a built-in lock, unfortunately, but at the budget price that you're picking up this bike rack for, it really doesn't surprise me that that's not included. Now, installing this bike rack is pretty straightforward. It's only certified to be used on a 2-inch receiver hitch. You just simply slide this bike rack in. Then you're going to take your hitch pin, which is threaded. So you're going to need that 24mm wrench or a monkey wrench like what I used to be able to tighten this down. But as you can see, it's nice because you can fold this bike rack up and you can also drop it down lower. So if you want to open up your trunk or your tailgate, you can do that. Now, something that's really cool is that this has a little safety pin on it, so you don't accidentally open this up or it doesn't get bumped open while you're going down the road and disengage and drop the rack down. That little pin is spring loaded and will stay in place. You turn it 90 degrees, it opens it, and then you turn it back 90 degrees and it closes it and prevents that from being able to be opened. Now, this does come with several ratcheting straps, both front and back, and they are relatively tight, and they are long enough to be able to fit over a fat tire e-bike. Now, this back wheel chuck, it does move back and forth, so it's really nice. It uses some sort of a quick release, so you can tighten it down or loosen it and then slide it up against your wheel and then lock it back down into place. Now, in the center of the rack, you are going to get these little arms that have a little ratcheting strap that will grab onto your frame. Whenever you're not using the bike, these do lay down flat, and you'll be able to strap them to the wheel holders to prevent those from bouncing around while you're in transport without a bike on them. Now, loading a bike is relatively easy, but the first time with a rack like this, it is going to take you a little bit to get it set up just right for your bike. On the Fat Tire e-bike here, I was able to put the upper strap up against the frame, which was really nice because that grabbed onto the frame instead of the seat post. I definitely preferred that. Some bike racks will grab onto the seat post because the clamp is a little too high, but the clamp on this is fully adjustable all the way up to the top and all the way down to the bottom. Now that I've got the King Bull one loaded up, let's go ahead and load up my EMTB. This is my Marin, and it loaded up just as easy. And even with skinnier tires than the Fat Tire bike, this thing seemed to be held in there really, really well. So now we've got two e-bikes loaded up on this budget e-bike rack. This thing can hold upwards of 200 pounds, 100 pounds per tray. I've probably got about 125 pounds on here now. This thing is having no problems holding these bikes. It can support much more weight than this. Now, I do have to say these trays are very, very nice, very well made, nice and sturdy. I do like the fact that you can raise and lower this, and that they have nice things like these little rubber bumpers here, this safety lock so this doesn't come undone while you're going down the road. And there's plenty of straps with a little bit of rubber protecting it so you don't damage any of your bikes. Now, the arms up here that do attach to your bike, they are going to take a little bit of work to get these things loaded up, but once you've got them loaded up, they seem to be holding the bike really, really well. Now, one thing that I do want to address is that this does have a little bit of wobble, and that's primarily due to the fact that this thing can raise and lower, and it doesn't have a very tight tolerance right down here where it locks into place. You've got a massive bolt holding it, so you don't have to worry about this having any issues while you go down the road. You may just see your bikes move back and forth just a little bit. So here is a look of it going down the road. As you can see, it's got a very slight wobble, nothing too concerning, but that is there. Now, we are talking about a $359 e-bike rack. We're not talking about $1,000 to a $1,500 bike rack with premium features. This bike rack is designed for basically anybody who is just getting into biking, wants to be able to load up their heavier e-bikes and be able to hit up the road. So now let's go over the things that I love about this bike rack and the things that I wish could be improved on this bike rack. First, let's start with the things that I think could be improved. I think they could tighten up the tolerances just a little bit to make it not wobble whenever you're going down the road. The wobble isn't significant once you get up to speed, but if you do hit a bump going a little bit slower, you will notice your bike's moving back and forth. For me personally, I used a budget bike rack in the past for years and had zero issues that had much more wobble than what this one does and wasn't made nearly as robust as what this bike rack is. And the other thing that I think they could do just to make it just a little bit better are those arms that come up to tighten onto the bike. I do wish that it had a pin at the very bottom. That way, those would be pinned into place whenever you raise them up. Now, as for the things that I love about this, first and foremost is obviously the price. $359 is an absolute steal for a double bike rack that goes on a 2-inch hitch receiver. This is really unheard of at this price point, especially one that will fit this range of bikes. I was able to fit my really long wheelbase Marin e-bike on there with no problems whatsoever. And then also my King Bull Fat Tire e-bike with the huge 4-inch wide tires had no problems fitting on there. And in fact, there was room for even bigger tires. And the other thing is the maximum weight that you can fit on this bike rack. At 100 pounds per tray, coming out at a total of 200 pounds, that's going to be one of the most heavy-duty bike racks that I've ever reviewed. Now, I have reviewed bike racks in the past that can hold 100 pounds, but they're typically just a single tray bike rack. Having a dual tray that can hold 200 pounds is something that we really don't see all that often. Now, one thing that I would like to see, and I hope that they add to this as an accessory in the future, is an e-bike ramp. Since this is really specific to being for e-bikes, I would love to see an e-bike ramp on this. I think it would just make it that much better, and it would make it a lot easier to use whenever you're lifting up those really heavy e-bikes. All right, guys, let me know what you think of this budget-friendly e-bike rack by Young Electric. And again, I want to thank OutFitR.com for sending me this bike rack for review. And if you guys are interested in that, definitely check out my links down below. And if they happen to give me a coupon code, I'll put that in the description also. All right, everybody, make sure you subscribe because it's completely free and I put out videos every single week. Until next time, get out there and ride your bike.